Intermediate Algebra, Mid-Course Assessment, Questions 5 and 6. In this problem, we're told in the instructions to graph. In number 5, we're given the function of x equals a 5 over 4 x minus 3. To graph this equation, what we're going to do is find 3 points to graph the line. 2 points will make a line. However, a third will check the line to be sure that we've done the math correctly. We're going to treat this as though it were in slope-intercept form. Where we see the function of x, that's like saying y. So we have a y equals a 5 over 4x minus 3. We're going to plug values in for x that we have chosen on our own, and then solve to find what the ordered pair would be, or what y would equal to. In the first one, we're going to plug a 0 in on the x. This is the simplest math problem we can do. So I'm going to plug a 0 in here, and I have my 5/4 times a 0 minus 3. Well, that creates a 0, so I'm left with equals negative 3. If this is going to be my y value, then my ordered pair is 0, negative 3. I'll do this again. This time, though, I'm going to pick values to plug in to clear the fraction easily. I see that my denominator down here is a 4, so I'm going to choose a 4 to plug in for my x. So I put that 4 over 1 so that it's in a fraction form. I can see that the 4's cancel, and I'm left with a 5 over 1, which equals 5. Carry down the minus 3, so 5 minus 3, and I'm left with 2. So my ordered pair is going to be the 4 for the x that I plugged in, and I solved to find that its y value is 2. On the third one, I'm going to use the 4 again, but this time I'm going to use a negative 4. This time, plugging it in, when I clear the 4's, the negative stays, so I end up with a 5 times a negative 1 over 1, which creates a negative 5. So negative 5 minus 3, or negative 5 plus negative 3, creates a negative 8. So my ordered pair is a negative 4, negative 8. I then return to the graph to put my 3 points on and to check to see if I've created a line. So I put on the 0, negative 3. I also graph the 4, 2, and lastly the negative 4, negative 8. When I draw a line in here, I see that they all line up, so I've done the math correctly. Now I can move on to the next problem. In number 6, it says, solve the system graphically. So what I'm going to do is take my 2 lines to try to solve and see if there are a point or points that these 2 lines have in common with one another. So what I'm going to do is first take the 2x plus 3y equals 21. This was my first point. And I'm going to do just like I did before. I'm going to pick values for one of the 2, the x or the y, and solve for the other. So first I'm going to plug a 0 in on the x position and solve for y. So this brings the 2 times the 0, it creates a 0 here, so I'm left with 3y equals 21. I can then take that 3 that's multiplying to the y and divide it out to the other side, and I end up finding that y is equal to 7. So there's one of my ordered pairs, 0, 7. Now I'm going to make another point. So I'm going to come down, and I'm going to plug in a value. This time I'm just going to select one for the y value. If I take a 3 times a 3, this is going to create a 9. Now I selected the 3 because I knew that multiplying it with 3 would create an odd number. And I knew I'm going to have to subtract this number to the other side so that it will now take that odd number, that 21, and the other odd number and result in an even number. So that when I divide the 2 out, it divides evenly. So I kind of, looking at my problem, selected a value that I knew would clear easily. So taking that odd number, that 3, it made a 9 here. So now I need to subtract the 9, and subtracting the 9 off the other side made my 21 go down to a 12, an even number. and then I can divide by a 2. 2 divided into the 12 left me with the 6. So I end with a 6, 3. So there's another point to graph. I need one more to check my line. I've got 2 points that'll make my line, but I need a third one to check. So again, I chose an odd number. So I moved from the 3, now I've gone up to a 5, and I'm going to plug it in here. So 3 times a 5 makes a 15. And I subtract that 15 from the other side, leaving me with a 6. So I have 2x equals 6. Divide the 2 that's multiplying to the x to the other side, and it leaves me with x equals 3. So it results in 3, 5. So I can come back up here and I can see that I've graphed that line in here. Now I'm going to come back down through and I'm going to graph the second equation, the 3x plus 2y equals 24. So I've copied the equation down here. Again, I'm going to start with something really simple. I'm going to put a 0 on the x. So I'm going to plug that in. So I put a 3 times 0 plus 2y equals 24. So now I'm left with 2y equals 24. Divide the 2 to both sides and I'm left with y equals 12. So there's one ordered pair, 0, 12. Coming down, I'm going to do this again, right? This time I'm going to plug the 0 on the y instead to clear it easily. So I'm going to plug a 0 in on that 2, or on that y next to the 2, and I end up with a 0. So it leaves me with a 3x equals 24. Divide the 3 to both sides and leaves me with x is equal to 8. So here's a second ordered pair. So I end up with an 8, 0. So if I look at these and I graph these two, I end up with a 0, 12 out here, an 8, 0 here, and I can kind of draw a line. And I see that it's crossing at the 6, 3. Well, I'm going to see if I can get that 6, 3 out of that equation. If I can, then I've also found my answer. And I've also checked the line. So I'm going to choose the 3 for the y, and I'm plugged it in here to see if it works, if it gets me a 6. So I plugged it in. 2 times 3 gets a 6 here. So I have 3x plus 6 equals 24. Subtract the 6 off both sides so that I'm left with 3x equals 18. Divide the 3, and it creates a 6. So I have 6, 3. So when I look back, it graphs on the green line that I created, but it also graphs where it crosses the red line. So this 6, 3 is the answer.